Hello everyone, welcome to our SDG studios in the headquarters of the United Nations in New York in what is called High Level Week. That means that the UNGA, United Nations General Assembly, is getting together. World leaders are here. New York is a hive of activity, and apart from the road closures and the summits, there are high level conversations that take place during High Level Week. But we are here to tell you about REAIM. This is about a summit that will take place in the Netherlands in February 15th and 16th. What is it about? Well, it is about the responsible use of artificial intelligence in the military domain. I've never thought about artificial intelligence in that kind of perspective, but there will be a summit taking place in the Netherlands, and it will be hosted by the government of the Netherlands, represented here by the Foreign Affairs Minister, Wopke Hoekstra, and I also have the United Nations Under-Secretary for Disarmament, Ms. Izumi Nakamitsu. I will be in conversation with them throughout the next few minutes. But also we've got voices from different stakeholders, because when you introduce something to the world, it is important that you hear different voices, particularly from civil society, research, academia. We've brought you all those voices, including other partners and stakeholders. Now, Minister Hoekstra has had a very busy morning. He gathered with a variety of representatives on this topic, REAIM, and that is artificial intelligence in military domain. So the countries that participated in this morning's session, it was of course the Netherlands, there was South Korea, I understand, Canada, Germany, Turkey, the United States, Chile, as well as other stakeholders as well. So I got lost this morning as I was coming into the studio, but guess who came to the rescue? Google Maps. So technology and artificial intelligence is really changing our lives in a profound and dramatic way. Not only that, even your digital preferences, what you see, the information and content that you access, you've got algorithms telling you all about that. I spoke about Google Maps earlier. So can you imagine that kind of content and interaction from a military point of view? It is expected and predicted that artificial intelligence will make an impact in the military domain. And that means it is going to influence weaponry systems, we'll hear about that in a moment, data analysis, logistics, and how the military actually make their decisions. So the world is about to change. But today, we are all about launching officially this summit that will address this important topic. But let's familiarize ourselves with the concept. Let's just find out what artificial intelligence in the military is. Take a look at this.
Manufacturing robots, self-driving cars, chatbots. Machines and software are becoming increasingly independent in carrying out tasks and making their own decisions. We call this artificial intelligence. AI is a technology that is fundamentally changing our world and rapidly becoming part of our daily lives.
Eagle 4-2 squawking dead man.
Military organizations around the world are increasingly adopting AI in analyzing data and in decision-making processes. This military application of AI is essential for defending our global values against present and future threats. But there are concerns about potential risks. Will we as humans still be in control? Will AI lower the threshold for the use of force? Who is responsible if AI makes a mistake? It is critical for the international community to look at both the opportunities and the risks, and to take responsibility for the potential applications of this technology now and in the future. The Netherlands strives to be a progressive and responsible high-tech country. That is why we are organizing the REAIM Summit on Responsible AI in the Military Domain. The summit is hosted by Dutch Minister of Foreign Affairs Wopke Hoekstra in close cooperation with the Ministry of Defense. It will be held on February the 15th and 16th, 2023 in The Hague, International City of Peace and Justice. During the REAIM Summit, governments, businesses, academics and civil society organizations from around the world will come together. They will decide on what actions need to be taken to ensure the military application of AI is dealt with responsibly. including research, development, innovation, application, and the frameworks that govern the use of AI globally. These actions will ensure that AI remains in the service of people and a tool only used with the greatest of care.
Minister Hoekstra, let's start there. Why is the Netherlands so interested in this particular topic, so much so that you are hosting the REAIM summit?
Well, because on the one hand, we see the tremendous opportunity. We saw that in the short clip. You mentioned it as well. It could mean could have all sorts of positive effects on society. And it could also provide the military with equipment and with things that we currently do not have, and provide the military with opportunity. But I think, as always with technology, there is the opportunity, but there are also risks involved. And it is now up to us, it is up to this generation to make sure we mitigate the risks. We make sure we arrive at a common framework, a common set of norms or rules, if you will, how to engage and how to deal with this new technology. And the time truly is now, because this is developing. And we do need to act because this will stay with us. This will not go away. This will affect society, but also defense ministries, the military, for generations to come.
Mm-hmm. Let me bring you in here because, you know, talking about military, I have images of drones and spies and all sorts of things. And I spoke about artificial intelligence at a civil level with chatbots and Google Maps. From a military point of view, do we have a reason to be nervous? Is it a good thing? What does it mean?
Both good thing and being nervous. I mean, let's just start with the positive aspect. I mean, I think it's quite easy to understand, for example, in terms of situational analysis, awareness, and early warnings. If AI is applied, you will have, you know, quite reliable data about what you need to be worried about in military operations. It's a large sum of data and analysis and those information being available very, very quickly. By applying the artificial intelligence. So that's a positive thing. However, there are a lot of question marks, things that we should be worried about. Now, for example, can AI-enabled military systems make human-like decisions? That is to say, in conformity with international law, especially international humanitarian law. Now, you know, in our society, we are supposed to distinguish civilians and military, civilian objects and military objects. Now, and human commanders always make the decisions to apply, you know, use force or not in accordance with those internationally agreed norms. Can AI actually make those human-like decisions? There is a big question mark about that. There are also much more sort of scary questions like, what if AI is applied in, for example, nuclear weapons command and control systems? That will make decision-making time so compressed so that the human commanders will not have sufficient time to make appropriate and well-thought-through decisions about pushing the button of nuclear weapons or not. So that will probably increase the risk factors of miscalculation, mistakes, and also unpredictability, leading very quickly to potential sort of catastrophe scenario.
Minister Hoekstra, let me then bring you in here. What is the reason then for the Netherlands' confidence and progressive approach to this topic, given the risks that we've just heard about?
Because it is so tremendously important. War is about life and death, and naturally this is the prerogative of states. And yet at the same time you see here that states should be involved, businesses should be involved, civil society should be involved, and now is the time. Not only because we once again see the ugly face of war, and war is back on European soil, but we do know that this will stay with us. This will stay with us, and this will have the capacity to completely alter the way we live our lives in normal society, but also to completely alter the way we fight wars. And therefore we better have the norms, the rules and the agreements on how to deal with all the various aspects that have just been mentioned.
And as the UN Under-Secretary for Disarmament, what has been your involvement here, and particularly how you bring countries together? Because countries have different levels of expertise and expectations. So as the United Nations, how do you approach it?
Right. There is already a very important ongoing process of discussing lethal autonomous weapon systems. Those multilateral discussions are taking place in Geneva. And we make sure that all countries are in fact involved, and they are indeed extremely high interest in those conversations. And interestingly, there is an emerging consensus that when it comes to critical functions, that is to say a decision as to whether the use of force should happen or not, that should rest with human commanders. It should not be delegated entirely to machines. So there are ongoing processes, but as I said, there are broader applications issues of artificial intelligence in the broader military domain. And here we feel very strongly that an inclusive process involving all governments and, as Minister said already, private sector entities, civil societies, they need to be also engaged, because those technologies, unlike nuclear weapons technologies, these AI technologies are mainly developed by civilian industries.
Speaking of that,
Yes.
I think this is as good a time as any to introduce those voices from the civilian and the academic realm. Let's just find out then what they have to say. A short video of the Hague Center for Strategic Studies, and they are talking about their inputs and have a question for both of you. Let's hear.
Throughout history, humans have invented and mastered so-called all-purpose technologies. Think of fire, think of electricity, think of the telegraph or the combustion engine. These all-purpose technologies have had a profound impact on societies and economies. AI is such an all-purpose technology. It will have a gigantic impact on the way humans live, how they work, how they create, how they interact. But inevitably, it will also shape the ways in which they will fight, and thus what future wars will look like. Because AI is such an all-purpose technology, regulating it through traditional arms control and non-proliferation regimes will be difficult. New approaches are necessary, including the development of norms and the involvement of new actors, including state and non-state actors. Here at the Hague Center for Strategic Studies, we have a question to the excellencies assembled today. Could you outline 3 ways in which the UN can contribute effectively to developing these new norms and involving these key actors?
I think, Mr. Kamuso, that one is for you. He specifically asked for the UN. Go for it.
Okay. It's a bit of a cliché expression, but multi-stakeholder engagement, actually feeding substance into intergovernmental discussions is really key. And we have been doing that in, for example, our discussions, multilateral discussions in cybersecurity issues, also outer space, responsible behavior in outer space as well. Outer space, there are a lot of private entities that are now really contributing to developments of those capabilities. So as the UN, we bring these actors so that they can actually feed a really serious substance into multilateral discussions. So we organize a lot of, mixed sort of audiences to come together. And interestingly, member states also find this approach to be very useful. So that's one role that we take very seriously at the United Nations.
Minister Hoekstra, your thoughts then on that kind of stakeholder reassurance and stakeholder engagement?
That is necessary. AI will affect all of society, and AI in the military domain will not only involve governments, but will also involve civil society, and basically our people who will have to deal, or hopefully will not have to deal with war, but are absolutely necessary at the table. Businesses are, the companies providing the technology, are typically 2 steps ahead of governments when it is about innovations and new technologies. So bringing them together is, I think, the only alternative. And it will not be easy. let's also be very clear about that. It will not be easy, just as every discussion that we've had in the past about limitations that we've put on weapon systems, making sure that we safeguard the civilian population against some of the adverse effects of war, have never been easy. And yet at the same time, if you look back at the past, with 2 steps forward, 1 step back, we have succeeded in doing precisely that. And we should apply that now in the domain of AI.
Okay, let's hear more from those stakeholder voices. Our second video is from the TU Delft, addressing their concerns about artificial intelligence in the military. Let's hear.
We often hear that technology is not good or bad. It is their use that makes them so. At Delft University of Technology, we disagree, especially for digital technologies. Technological design deeply influences how they can and will be used. And it is at the design stage that values, norms, and interests of actors can come through. Once a product has been developed, it is difficult to change the underlying values, and for users and regulators to counterbalance the choices made during the design. This is especially important for the military domain, where digital technologies can have a tremendous impact, for better and for worse. Therefore, we need to act first, during the design and development stage. But how to achieve, in general, this design for values? This is the complex and fascinating challenge that we aim to address in our conference on responsible AI in the military domain. Consider, for example, the request that human actors maintain so-called meaningful human control over military systems that include AI. This is very important, as situations can arise in which nobody can explain why a decision was made, be it for logistics, planning, or targeting systems. Also, the use of AI can create gaps in accountability for critical decisions. However, defining and realizing meaningful human control over AI-driven systems require efforts on the socio-technical level, but also the legal, societal, and philosophical. And the same holds for many other important values and principles. Another big question for us is, therefore, how do we ensure that regulations, development, and use of AI are set up in such a way that high-level principles such as meaningful human control and others are maintained and reinforced in the military practices?
That's comment there from the Technical University of Delft. We can't deal with everything. I think some of the stuff has already been addressed. But just going back to the REAIM summit and how it aims to address this particular theme of accountability, Minister.
Well, I think he was right, and there the common framework, the common set of norms and regulations comes in, and that should not only apply for the application of AI, it should also apply to the design of AI, ideally, because he is right. When you have designed a system with certain limitations or certain possibilities, that actually predicts to a large extent the use of it. So we should look at the whole chain, if you will, and make sure that, again, it will not be easy, but going forward, we should agree on each and every element of AI in the military.
Mm-hmm. All right, we mentioned earlier that there were stakeholders and that the minister was in that gathering with several representatives. Let's just hear a comment, firstly, from the ambassador representing Turkey, and his name is Timur Solimaz. And then we're also going to hear from the ambassador representing the United States, Bonnie Jenkins. Listen to what they had to say.
Artificial intelligence in and of itself is hugely important for all of its implications, but especially in the military sphere. As the technology grows exponentially, we obviously have to be very careful about where it goes, where it leads, how it's used, and how it's controlled. So this is important for us as a country that has a very strong defense industry, as a country that is invested in R&D, in defense industry in particular, and with looking to the future with AI. This is a conversation that's important for us.
And now let's hear from the US's ambassador, Bonnie Jenkins.
Because we really think there's real value in AI and how it can be used to help advance military operations. We also see the potential downfall. So I'm really appreciative of the government of the Netherlands for launching this initiative. And I can say the United States looks very forward to being part of it and looking forward to February next year. You are nodding. You must be very pleased that countries are starting to engage with this content.
Absolutely. No, if the norm to be really implemented, we need to have good, inclusive process so that as many countries as possible will sign up to the norm and then implement them, and also the private sector businesses, etc., also buying into those norms of responsible behavior. We are also working with the young practitioners, AI practitioners, engineers, the business people, so that they will be more aware of the risks when they are actually designing those algorithms and AI products in general. So the key is responsible use and deployment.
And you are very, very positive and optimistic about this, Ms. Nakamitsu. But for you, Minister, as you build up to the REAIM summit in February, I don't want you to give up your diplomatic secrets, but you must be busy, hard at work then, lobbying those countries that are still not sure or that are concerned about being left behind because of their technical know-how or lack thereof, a lack of expertise. There's a lot of inequalities amongst countries. How are you planning to approach that?
Well, actually, in the same way as we have done with conventional weapon systems, and as we've tried to do, of course, with a much smaller scope in the nuclear domain. I think the broader you can involve countries, the more success you will have. But let's not be naive. This technology eventually will be available to governments and to militaries across the globe. And therefore, governments across the globe should be involved.
What are you hoping for the summit? What would you like to see happen next February, 15th and 16th, to take not only the conversation forward, but the action forward when it comes to AI in military domain?
I mean, first and foremost, we're really grateful for your government, Mr. Minister, because you're putting this issue very high on the political agenda at the international scene, and that's what we need. This has to move upwards from a technical expert community to a political agenda, and that's the first step. And then let's really start having a serious and inclusive discussions on what kind of norms that we need to have, and that has to be, done in a multilateral level. And international cooperation is also key to bring everyone up to speed on these issues and everyone bringing on board with the future norms. So very much looking forward to this process.
And Minister, I don't want to dwell too much on the war in Ukraine, but if you had asked so many people last year this time if there was going to be a war in the world, they were probably going to say absolutely not. There were so many reassurances that there's not going to be a war. So in a way, the conversation around AI in the military is at the right time, given that the world was taken aback by this level of aggression that is still ongoing.
It most certainly is. And you're absolutely right. We see a completely unjust war with the most horrible consequences. And it is true that many people had not expected it to take place. And that has often happened when you look back at the history of humanity, that even before a very significant crisis or one of the world wars, very few expected actually a cataclysmic event that then actually took place. So we do not need to, we shouldn't be naive. We should really prepare for the what if, and given that AI will be there, it is absolutely essential that we do the planning now. The good news is, we're just starting with this. We're just starting to see the opportunities, but also the downsides. So we might have a bit of time, but we should start now.
So I'm going to give you the final thoughts and final words on this, because you are hosting all of us next year, February. Your final message to your stakeholders as they prepare and build up to REAIM Summit next year.
Well, I think there's a lot of truth in that famous quotation by JFK. The new frontier is there, whether we like it or not. It is here. It is here. It will affect all of us. So we simply have to deal with this. We are responsible. We should do it for our generation, but also for the generations to come.
Well, you've just been listening to really clear and bold ambitions expressed by the government in the Netherlands and the United Nations, of course, when it comes to artificial intelligence in the military domain. A bold ambition has been articulated, which aims to bring together all critical stakeholders. There's so many important themes that came through, especially from the voices of civil society and the researchers when they talked about accountability in the military. And that's another issue that we addressed in this conversation. So you are also invited to contribute concrete steps and inspire more knowledge by sharing best practices. And as a, well, not so very young person, but I do know that in my country, for example, when it comes to technology and artificial intelligence, we see it as a really critical response to our unemployment problem. The reality is that artificial intelligence is here to stay, and it has affected so many realms of our lives. Can it be dealt with responsibly and in a way that guarantees global security? Well, Minister Hoekstra and Ms. Nakamitsu seem to believe that this is possible. The build-up to REAIM 2023 in the Netherlands, 15th and 16th of February, has begun. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.